I think when it's time to go for an upgrade on your computer, a lot of us have a question of, should we just do all of it? Should you just do the processor? Should you just do the graphics card? And in today's video, I kind of wanted to briefly touch on that idea. Not in an exact scientific, this is exactly what you need to do, because your use case is probably going to be very specific. But what I'm going to be doing is taking 4 generations of processors, so those are behind me, and pairing them with AMD's latest flagship card, the RX 9070 XT. Now, the goal of this video is to decide, is there a spot that you should just spend more money on a processor and perhaps a little less money on a graphics card? Or could you just throw a sweet graphics card in there and call it a day? So the processors I've got behind me are the i5-4590. This is a 12-year-old processor, not the fastest. So this one is just gonna kind of be a baseline, like if you're stuck on a really old system, probably not gonna be upgrading to a 9070 XT. We have a Ryzen 5 3600, not the X. Sorry, you guys, I couldn't get my hands on one of those, but 3600 is still pretty close. The Ryzen 5 5500, and then a modern Ryzen 5 9600. Now, the goal of this video is to take a couple games, go through the gameplay, and determine how well it handles those games on each of those systems, because this 9070 XT is a very 1440p capable card, capable of 4K gaming as well, and I'm gonna kind of describe to you the behind the scenes stuff. So like, there's a quality of life that happens when you upgrade your processor. So we're gonna be playing Crimson Desert and Space Marine 2. And Crimson Desert has been the slowest loading game in my experience of all these tests that I've done. On this 4590 alone, it takes me about an hour just to get the game uploaded and to actually get in the game after you've done all the shaders and gone through the intro and all that. So those are some things that I will comment on. We'll take a look at the FPS if there's like definitely a cap. As we start out lower, as we continue to improve, is it going to get better? So we're gonna take a look at those 2 games and just kind of identify some of those things, and hopefully it will help us have a better understanding of, should you be spending more money on your graphics card, or could you just kind of semi-upgrade your CPU, just go to a better version of your generation and go with something like a 3060 Ti, or maybe a slight upgrade from what you have. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into that gameplay. We'll start out on the lower end system. So we'll go with the 4590, 3600, 5500, and then finish up with the 9600X. All right, you guys, so we have the 9070 XT loaded up with the 4590. We are in Crimson Desert on 1440p. So this is a 1440p monitor, 165 hertz refresh rate. Dude, so we're getting, 80-ish FPS in this particular area. This looks really good. In fact, I think this is quite a step up from I did the 3080 yesterday. Now I will say it is a very stuttery, yeah. So it's showing the accurate FPS here. It does look pretty good. I wouldn't say it's a smooth experience. Oh yeah, I forgot to look at the settings too. Did you guys see how slow that is? I imagine it's probably upped me really high and I did not know that. No, this is low, wow. Jeez. Okay, everything is on low. Rather laggy. Yeah, there's a lot of like, I wouldn't call it delay, it's just like kind of a motion blur. Like when you go to move your mouse or do things, it feels like it takes a second. It's almost like you're like sick. Look around Hernandian. Yeah, can you guys see how slow that is? So this is when we're in a city with a lot happening. Do I go in here? Arm wrestling is a contest of strength and timing. Press E repeatedly to fill the gauge and win. Gauge, whatever. Cool, we'll press E. Let's see how it goes on this. This seems pretty easy. I mean, the graphic quality is pretty decent here though. What is happening? What? I lost. It seems like it's going pretty good through the, I'm not getting the delay on the mouth. I've talked about that before. It looks good, yeah. So that feels like it's probably a good natural spot to stop. We beat the guard in the arm wrestling challenge. When we were in the city, we saw that it dropped down really low to 30 to 40, but that's gonna be very CPU reliant. So we'll go ahead and swap over to Space Marine 2, see how it does in that game with the 9070 XT. All right guys, now we are in Space Marine 2 and I am still just blown away at how good this game looks and how good it looks running on a 12-year-old processor. Let me take you through the settings really quickly just to see what it's got us on by default. Render resolution, I'm gonna try to keep it native. No upscaling, was I doing upscaling before? I can't remember. No frame gen. It's on high. Let's drop it down to low. This is what I did with the 3080 as well, was try to put things on low and then bump it up a little bit. Wow, we did not like that. The quality did drop some. So we're at 50, 60-ish FPS. Very playable. The CPU is getting 100% maxed out. I know it says CPU 1, but if I were to try and switch anything on Afterburner right now, it would just crash. And I would be stuck trying like another hour. I guess on Space Marine it was only like 15 minutes. But if I were to do this while I was playing Crimson Desert, it'd be like an hour. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and up it just a little bit now to what it had it initially on, which was high. I want to see how well the CPU can handle that. And obviously the graphics card is a big part of that as well. Come on. Come on. This does have some really cool movement. In some ways it kind of reminds me of like, some of you guys probably don't remember this, but there was a game called Unreal Tournament way back in the day. Like we're talking 2000, I think maybe 2008 or something was the last edition, 2009. Maybe they've come out with one since then, but like the diving and moving around, it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid, or not Metal Gear Solid, but what's that game I'm thinking of? Someone on here probably knows what I'm talking about. Oh, it's gonna bug me that I can't think of it. What is it, guys? What is it? Oh, it was a very famous game on Xbox. It's gonna bug me. Someone leave me a comment. You know what I'm talking about? It had like the dudes that would roll on their shoulders and it's gonna bug me. It's gonna bug me. I can't. I'm gonna look it up after this and be like, why did I not remember that? Anyway, yeah, it's still feeling pretty smooth even on this high here. So honestly, I'm pretty satisfied. Outside of the fact that like it just takes forever for the computational part of the CPU to like get into games. This is a really playable experience on the 9070 XT and a 4590. Like think about that for a second. This is feeling very smooth. And you can see it is maxing out the CPU and it is pushing the GPU pretty hard. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause this. Let's go ahead and swap over because I don't want to play too much on this or bore you guys with way too much gameplay. Let's go ahead and swap over to the Ryzen 5 3600 and see how that pairs with the 9070 XT. We'll kind of pay attention to see if there's an FPS bump. On Crimson Desert, I really want to see if that motion blur kind of goes away, if the FPS will go up while we're in the city, and just kind of evaluate the performance in the jump from 4590 to 3600. You guys, sometimes I do things and I go, why did I do that? So I only have one B450 motherboard. I don't have like a B550 or anything else for AM4. And I had the Ryzen 5 5500 in there. I took it out, went to put the 3600 in there, started the computer, and would you guess what was in there? The Ryzen 5 5500. So here we are now with the correct CPU loaded in. We've got the Ryzen 5 3600, the 9070 XT. We're in Crimson Desert. At least I know what's going on now. But man, this looks actually really good. And I will say this because I've had people ask to compare like the 3600X to the 5500. The preloading and all that felt like it might have been faster on the 3600. I'm just saying at some point I will do an in-depth analysis, or at least my in-depth analysis of the 3600 versus the 5500. Not the X because I don't have that, but hopefully it will suffice. Let me go ahead and show you guys the settings that we're on really quick. It does feel pretty snappy. This is significantly faster. Wow, we're on cinematic. I'm gonna drop it down to low just to see what kind of FPS we're getting. Because that's what I care about right now, and then we will go back up high. It still looks pretty high quality here, but we didn't get like a massive jump in the FPS. Whoa, that's really low. I always like to do this test. If you guys watched the 3080 video, I enjoyed doing it there. So that's on low. It did let me go up to cinematic, so let's try that again. Oh yeah, you can see there's so much difference. There's so much like depth, and I usually call it like lines and clarity. I'm gonna drop it back down to low really quick because I do want to move around, get a feel for it, and then we'll go back up to cinematic. But I want to see if there's like any of the motion blur, delay, lag. Where am I supposed to be going? All right, let's go ahead and finish that quest. The last thing we did was we took on that arm wrestling guy. So we were at what, 30 to 40 FPS running through the city. This does look really high quality. I am potentially going to start to rescind some of the statements I made about this game because in areas like this, at least with the sun shining and stuff, it does look really good. So, you know, 50-ish to or so FPS. We do use a lot of RAM in this game. VRAM is not being as used as heavily as I thought. Let's go over here. Oh, it's raining. Is it? It's raining everywhere. Ooh, that does look kind of bad on this low. You guys might not be able to see it on the screen, but it's just kind of like lines falling down. I'm going to turn it up to cinematic now because I want to see if it's going to let me run at that. I want to run at that and see if we can, if it's going to drop the FPS really low and if it's going to change. It does make the rain look better. You can definitely tell that it's rain now. Before it was just like lines on the screen. Yeah, I'm going to say it looks kind of poor while it's raining. Like it literally looks like the rain is washing away the colors, which is not what ironically is kind of what you might think when rain happens, is it would wash away colors, but not in a game. So I'm going to say as we watch some of this, I'm not going to watch a whole lot of it, but I do want to watch and have you guys also pay attention to like the mouths. When you're on slower processors, the words will come out and then the mouth will move. So I want to see what it looks like here.
Grow accustomed to. Here, I hope this can be of help. How kind of you. A benevolent hand has finally reached me.
That seemed pretty good. It feels like you can definitely see their mouse moving at an appropriate timing. Also, I apologize again in advance if I'm ruining the gameplay for anybody or like you came here strictly for that and you're getting spoilers. Sorry, guys. I feel like that's kind of enough. I'm gonna wait to save this trapdoor for the next one, for the 5500, because I do want to walk around the city again and see like if there's higher FPS or lower FPS from the 3600 to the 5500. So let's go ahead and jump over to Space Marine 2, test that out, and then we'll swap over to the 5500. Guys, it was Gears of War. When I was loading this up on the 3600, we're on Space Marine 2, I then recognized, or not recognized, but remembered, I'm like, ah, dang it, it was freaking Gears of War 2. So if any of you guys played Gears of War 2, or whatever they were, the movement in this game really reminds me of that. And maybe it was the same designers, I have no clue. But here we are on the 3600 9070 XT. Let me take you into, I want native still. Let me take you through the settings that we've got set up. No frame gen, that's good. I'm gonna start out on low, and then we will upgrade to a higher setting after that. I don't know where it put us. Oh, cool, it kept me in the same spot, okay. 70 FPS, what were we getting before on the 4590? Weren't we getting like 50 to 60? So this is very smooth on this low setting here. Cool, so this definitely feels like a playable experience. In fact, this feels very, very playable. I forgot to look at the face and kind of do like an assessment there. It always looks really bad outside of the light. It looks good. It's hard to tell like while we're about to get into a fight. We've seen enough on the low. I want to go up to, I think we could crack it all the way up, because we do have, so on the, I did the same test yesterday on the 3080. I actually did a 2600 instead of a 3600. Anyway, I'm rambling. I did the same exact test yesterday with Crimson Desert and Space Marine 2, and the 3080 only had 10 gigs of VRAM, so it wouldn't let us go to Ultra. So we're going to try to put it on Ultra on this Ryzen 5 3600 and see if we drop a bunch of FPS, you know, if the experience gets worse or if it's about the same. I'll have to swap over to this gun. Ow. Ow. Dude, this guy is messing us up. So we dropped maybe 10, 15 FPS, but it's playing very smooth. I can't really give you guys an update while I'm in battle on the graphic quality. I mean, looking at this, that looks so good. This looks so amazing. This game does have really good graphics. The cinematics are also like out of this world. They're so good. I know I haven't really shown those on here just because probably to avoid that, for the simple fact that like cinematics take a long time and I don't want to force you guys into that. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap over to the 5500 and actually do the 5500 instead of the 3600 this time. We'll evaluate that. I do kind of want to make sure we kind of compare just these two specifically, because at some point I am going to do a dedicated video on that, but it is curious to know like a 3600 versus, people don't like the 5500 because it's like a cut down, it has less L3 cache, all that kind of stuff, but we'll see what the performance is like. I don't know, you guys, the 5500 might have that 3600 beat. I felt like I got through all the loading and shaders and all that stuff a lot faster. It could be because maybe it recognizes around the same NVMe and all that was preloaded, but it felt like it got through it a lot faster. Let's go ahead and, excuse me, drop this down to just the low settings first. Yeah, it defaulted us to cinematic, so let's drop us down to low. Kind of take a look around, see what our FPS is. 103. Again, I will restate this. Whenever we are in daylight and we have, you know, settings like this, I think the game looks really beautiful here. It's not until it starts getting like dark and washed out that I start to wonder, like, man, this is just not that good. Again, I wanted to get into town and kind of see if our FPS drops, if it's comparable. You know, when people are walking around, they're doing things. So on the 4590, I think we were getting, what, 30 FPS, maybe 40. The 3600, I think we were getting 80 or 90, somewhere around there. So I think we are, I cannot verify this, but I think we are potentially getting 10 more FPS at this point. But I do want to walk into like kind of the heart of the city. So okay, so now we are actually in like the city where there's a lot happening. There's a lot of people. We have dropped like 15, sometimes up to 20 FPS. And this is on low. I'm gonna up it to, what is it, cinematic? Yeah, cinematic. And let's see what we're getting now. Yeah, so it lost us 10 F. Whoa, that looks way better. I mean, I just saw this guy first, but like all the graphics, the textures are so much more like enriched and clear. Wow. So maybe I have judged this game too harshly, and we're gonna see this on the 9600X. If you are rocking a really, really good CPU and a really, really good GPU, it's possible that like you're gonna be hardcore loving what you get. I feel like this is a fair enough point on the 5500. I think there was a slight increase from the 3600 to the 5500. I would really be curious about the 3600X if it's almost equivalent, and where that cache, the L3 cache, like might actually make a difference, or if it's really not as big a deal as people think, or where, like, if it's more, maybe it's like esports games. I don't know. I'm just rambling here. Let's go ahead and switch over to Space Marine 2. All right, guys, so now we have the 5500 loaded up. We're playing Space Marine 2. I'm going to do the same thing I did before, where we're going to drop everything down to low. We'll make sure no frame gen or anything is on. Okay, no frame gen's on. We are going to drop it down to low. I am going to just kind of test this out, see what kind of FPS we're getting. I forget what we were getting on the 3600. I want to say this is similar. I think it was probably 75 to 85. Could be wrong. But we're going to kind of take a look here, see if we get higher FPS. At this point, like, all of these CPUs are very playable. But yeah, so all of them are very playable at this point. It really comes down to like how much performance you're hoping to get out of it and like what it's actually delivering you. Oh, there's a lot of them. Oh, is that a big bad boss or something? Yeah, so we dropped down to 60, 70 FPS. I'm gonna go ahead and bump it up to ultra really quickly just because I want to see what that does for the gameplay while we're actually doing things that are intense and CPU intensive. Get out of the way, man. Huh. Only like, it doesn't even seem like we really dropped any FPS, did we? I'm really not noticing that like there was a performance dip or anything like that going up to ultra. So I know we're losing some because when we go to the 9600X, like, it's going to be clear that we could have or should have been getting more than what we are. It just comes down to that like age-old question of if you're purchasing something higher end like a 9070 XT, a 5080, even a 5070 Ti, or 5070 at this point, you know, should you consider pairing it with something like this, and is it worth the time? And like, I feel like I say this a lot. I'll get through this. I feel like I say this a lot, but if you find a graphics card at a decent price, I would just purchase it. Like, if you're just on Facebook Marketplace or Jawa or eBay, and like it's a trusted seller and you see something that's really solid, and like, let's just say for some reason you saw a 9070 XT at like $500, they're going for like $800 at this point. As long as it's working, I would just buy it. Like, if that's within your budget, who cares if you're on a 5500 or even if you're on a, you know, the Ryzen 5 3600, 3600X. Like, we're seeing here that it's not a limit. However, you could potentially get more out of it, but like, I don't know. I think CPUs, and I'll continue with this, I'm just rambling here, but I think CPUs, personally, I have felt over this couple of months that I've been doing this so much, CPUs are less important for gaming. For gaming, there's lots of other things. There's a quality of life for like uploading, video editing, all that kind of stuff that deteriorates a lot if your CPU is not strong. But for strictly gaming, I have felt that GPUs are significantly more important. So I'm done rambling. Let's go to the 9600X, test out Crimson Desert and Space Marine 2 on there. All right, so now we have Crimson Desert loaded in on the 9600X. Again, you can see all the FPS and numbers up here. I'm gonna take you guys through the settings. This is what I defaulted it to. I am gonna lower it down to low. That way we can just kind of get a comparison at the beginning. So it is on Ultra, which I expected it to do. There's a minimum. I need to remember there is a minimum and that you could play this game on lower if that's what you had to do. So again, we're on the same graphics card and we've jumped up from a 5500, which is about a $75 to $100 CPU, depending on, if you buy it used, if you buy it new, to the 9600, which is about 180 to 200, but it comes with DDR5 RAM, and that's significantly more expensive than DDR4 RAM. So let's go ahead and go back up into the city here really quick. Outside of the city, we were sitting a comfortable 30 to 40 FPS up. Now that we are in here, kind of into the heart of the city, I think we're probably still 30 FPS up or so. I did want to do the face check actually real quick too. So here it is on low, sitting at 140 FPS up close. Now that we're actually getting to utilize the GPU, we can go to cinematic. Oh, it didn't default it to cinematic, interesting. Can you guys tell? I think there is a difference there. Let me go back to the low really quick. Low. Oh yeah, you can see. So a lot of the lines disappear on his face. I'll go back to the Ultra here for you guys really fast. Or the cinematic, sorry, cinematic. Cinematic. Yeah, you can tell, like, it's like the character aged is what it is kind of like. Like, there's just more definition overall. But we'll stop staring at that dude's face. I don't even know his name, to be honest. That's how bad I am at video games, you guys. So we did drop down to, like, what are we, 80-ish? Just under 90 FPS in the city. Again, I will say this, Crimson Desert looks good when it's well lit, and like in scenarios like this, I think the graphics look pretty solid. However, there are still some things that, like,
I'll help if I can.
up close that looks good, but like when you walk back here, it's just kind of clumpy in colors. It's not as good as I expected it to be for a game that released with as much hype as it got. Yeah, I think that we are seeing a significant amount of improvement from the 5500 to this, but then you have to ask yourself, could we get more out of this 9070 XT if we went up on an even higher end processor? And then at the same time, like, instead of the 5500, what if you just upgraded to like a 5600X, which is really like $30 or $40 more than the 5500? So you sell your 5500, get a 5600X, and then you could just get like a, that $30 or $40 extra that you're paying there, you could just take and put $400, $500 to like the 3080 or something like that. And I don't know. It's where it all gets really complicated. I feel like that's a good spot. We can call it there for the 9600X. Again, it does beg the question, like, the 9070 XT could probably be unlocked even further with a better processor. So like, at what point are you deciding this was enough, or I need to go more? So let's go ahead and jump over to Space Marine 2, see how that game runs. So now we've got Space Marine 2 loaded up on the 9600X. I'm gonna go ahead and again drop everything down to low just to start. Make sure we're on native. There is no frame gen on. And we'll drop everything down to low. Again, this is just to kind of get a frame of reference of like the FPS. I do think the visual quality, I guess this is maybe every game when you're kind of in that dark, looks a little muddled. Wow, 140, 150, we hit 160 FPS. So I think we're getting a lot higher, and it feels so smooth. Wow, we're nearing 200 in FPS. There are moments where we're just drastically improving our FPS. Now we did drop to below 100 here. I am going to the highest that it'll let me go, which I think is Ultra, right? I do want to up to Ultra here to, one, comment on the visual quality. I think it did go up. Probably need to focus on killing these things. I mean, so we dropped down a couple FPS, but it didn't seem like it was much. I would have been curious to see what this actually looked like on those other CPUs. I really should have tested this out on those other CPUs, because this would have been a good idea of like, that's the thing about like these short snippets, is I don't actually know like how it performs in every moment of the game. Like I can't know that. This could have performed horribly on the 3600, or it might not have ran at all on the 4590, because this is a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is probably enough to show us here. I'm not gonna bore you guys with me just shooting at things. I'm gonna go ahead and close out the video, give you guys my final thoughts, and then you guys can be on your way. So I guess my final thoughts on a card like a 9070 XT is pairing it with older CPUs is not a terrible thing, especially if you find something like a 9070 XT, so like a 5070, a 5070 Ti, 4080, 4070, 9060 XT, 16 gig, like all these kinds of cards, if you found them at a good value, personally, this is just me, I'm some guy on the internet, I would pick them up and worry about the processor later, because I am still searching to find a 4070 90K to drop into this thing. I really want to test that with this 9070 XT, because I am willing to bet that it's going to perform significantly better than I can think, I can believe, than I can even imagine. So like, if you're stuck on an older CPU, a lot of times gaming is more dependent on the graphics card. The quality of life is significantly different depending on the processor. So going from this 4590 all the way to this 9600X, to get Crimson Desert loaded, like I said, to start the game, for it to go through the shaders, there's this blue screen flying at you whenever you're trying to go through the intro, and then actually get in the game where I can push buttons and move around, takes about an hour or more on this 4590. On the 9600X, it took me 3 minutes from the time I clicked, from the time I was loaded into the game, and it was smooth and great. So there is obviously a difference in the processor, but if you're just talking about the gaming experience overall, it really just depends on your need, and hopefully this video kind of showed that depending on your processor, and obviously you're not going to be running this exact thing most likely, but it can help you identify like the strength of your CPU and what you could expect out of a card like a 9070 XT. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, that it perhaps brought you some entertainment, maybe, who knows, some education. I don't know much. I just talk on the internet, and that's what I do. But if you did enjoy it, I have tons of other content where I pair slower CPUs with better GPUs. I pair faster CPUs with slower GPUs. All of this is very tongue trickery. And I do have a newsletter if you guys are interested, where I update you of the upcoming content. Please check that out. I will be hosting a class for PC building beginners this Friday, March 27th at 7:30 p.m. Otherwise, I will catch you guys in the next video, and be sure to check one of these videos out.